This video has some of the newest and best settings you can possibly use for PC and console. I've been competing in the divisional cups and I am division 1, the highest possible division you can be. If you don't know that, there's people like Clix, Peterbot, and Khanada all competing in it. So I do have some crazy insight on some of the best settings that you should use. Now, right before we jump into all these things, if you could use my code SR3 in the item shop, that would help me a ton. It's the easiest way to support me and it can help me keep bringing you guys these amazing videos. Now, if we go into the settings, the first tab you're going to be brought to is the video tab. You're going to want to make sure that you are playing in full screen. If you're using windowed full screen or windowed, you're going to experience a lot less FPS and a lot more delay. Now, moving on to the resolution, you guys will want to put this at your monitor's native resolution. So for most people, that's 1920 by 1080. But for me, I do have a 1440p monitor, so mine is a little bit different than yours. You're going to want VSync off. It's completely useless. You're not going to want to use it. Now, for your frame rate limit, a lot of pros use 240. I have a 360 hertz monitor and my computer can handle 360, so I put it at that. But you guys should put it at whatever your monitor's refresh rate is, whether that be 240, 144. If you're on console, just make sure you turn on the 120 FPS mode, but just put this at what the max FPS you think you can run is. Now, for the rendering mode, I use performance mode because it gives me the most FPS and the lowest amount of input delay. I do not recommend using DX12 or DX11 because your FPS and input delay will be just horrible and you won't enjoy playing. Now, for the graphics tab, if you're on console, I do recommend maxing this out and then playing on Tritanope 3, but not everyone needs to do that. For me on PC, I just have my brightness at 100 and it feels good. Kind of just mess around with it and see what you enjoy using. Now, for colorblind, I do use Tritanope. I just like the colors of it. It generally makes my game more vibrant, which I enjoy. You guys don't have to use this. Again, just kind of adjust this to what you want your computer to look like. Now, if we scroll down to the graphics quality settings, you're going to want your 3D resolution at 100 off and then everything else as low as possible. This is going to give you the best FPS you can get and the lowest delay while you're playing the game. And then you're going to want to scroll all the way down to the bottom and turn your FPS off because there is some recent tests that show your FPS when it's off gives you more FPS than when it is on. It's not a lot, but all the FPS that you can get matters and it does help a ton. Now, going over into the audio tab, everyone's audio is going to be a little bit different, so kind of adjust it to your liking, but I do recommend always keeping your sound effects all the way up. And if you do want to adjust how loud your game is, only mess with the main tab. You want to make sure you can hear all your footsteps and everything, so do not move sound effects off of 100. Now, I do use visualize sound effects, which is at the bottom. You'll see a lot of pros using this. It helps with awareness. It kind of just tells you so much more information that you can get from than just hearing. Now, I do not use 3D headphones. I do not recommend it at all. I found zero use in it. It used to actually be really good. It's not as good anymore. And for the rest of this, you can kind of just adjust it to your liking. Just like with the communications tab, there really isn't anything here that's going to affect your gameplay. So just kind of adjust it to how you like, because this section doesn't affect if you win or lose game. Now, for the game tab, you're going to want to set your matchmaking region to whatever the lowest MS is for you. For me, it's East. I am actually 0 on East. My MS is kind of bugged right now. For Central, I don't even have an MS, but you're just going to set this to whatever the lowest is, and that's what you want to play on for your wins. Now, for your movement, you're just going to want to copy these exactly. I have on, hold jump, hold, press jump. Now, you want auto open doors on because if you're ever editing through something and you accidentally edit a door, you want to make sure you can just keep going through the door. You don't want to have to deal with it. Toggle sprint, I just use this. You don't have to. Just like you don't also have to use the double tap auto run. I just find it pretty useful. If I just want to like sit there and relax, I don't have to run forever. Now, for combat, you're going to want to turn hold to swap pickup on. If you have a not full inventory and you just want to pick up a gun without having to drop the other gun, you can just hold whatever your interact bind is. For me, it's T. I'd hold T down and I just swap my gun that I have in my hands for it, and it's super helpful. Now, auto pickup weapons, I do recommend you turn this on if you're playing competitive, but if you're just playing casually, you don't have to use it. But it helps you win a lot more 50-50s. If 2 people land on a chest and you have auto pickup on, you are more likely to get the chest. Now, for preferred item slots, I just have my loadout set to my shotgun in my first slot. You don't have to do this. I just find it helps me a ton, especially off spawn. If I pick up multiple guns, it automatically puts my shotgun in my first slot, and that's what I need to eliminate someone with off spawn. Now, for the building, you're going to want reset building choice on and turbo building on. If you don't use turbo building, you're kind of just selling yourself short and you're probably building a lot slower than your friends. Now, for editing, I don't use simple edit and I do use by pre-edits, so I can use pre-editing. Now, pre-edits, as much as you might accidentally make them, they give you lower input delay while you're trying to make edits happen, which is super helpful when you're just trying to go through laggy lob. As well as edit on release, I do actually use edit on release because it helps me a ton. I don't see a reason to not use edit on release. Even Peterbot has said, like, if you get good enough on edit on release, it's 50 times better than using double edit binds. So definitely turn edit on release on, especially if you're new to keyboard. Everything else here you kind of don't need. It doesn't have any effect. But if you scroll all the way down, turn your replays off all this off if you have a really bad PC. It'll help you with performance. I don't have that problem, so I get to keep my replays on. But if you have a very bad PC, just turn that all off. And then these energy saving tabs right here, turn them to never, off and off. This will help your PC's performance way more because it's not trying to save any energy on Fortnite. Now for your HUD settings, again, it's all personal preference, but I'll just show you mine. I do use cumulative because there's no reason for me to be trying to add up the numbers in my head if the game's going to do it for me. Now I keep my damage number scale and my HUD scale pretty low because I don't want the numbers to take up too much of the screen, so I can actually hit the people I'm looking at and not have the numbers blocking their entire body. Other than that, there's not much to do here. I do recommend turning off your net debug and latency debug because, again, it shows to give you more FPS the same way that turning off your FPS counter. For what you guys really want to see, and that is the mouse sensitivity. Now I'm playing on a 2.6 with 1600 DPI. It's not slow. I promise if you get used to it, it is some of the best sense I have ever used. I don't find myself missing shots, and if I do, it's because I'm not warmed up. And then to pair it with that, I use a 50-50 targeting and scoped, which is honestly pretty standard. Having it at 50 is pretty normal. And then for building and edit, I use 115% and 115%. It just helps me a ton when I'm in my build mode because I do think this sensitivity is a little slow for building. If you turn these settings up, it works perfectly fine. Now, what you're going to want to make sure you turn on, especially if you're on PC, is these two settings right here. Ignore controller input and lock input as mouse. If you turn both of these on, your input delay will go down so much because it's not trying to register anything but your keyboard and mouse, whereas if you have it off and you might have a controller plugged in, it can sometimes try to pick up both, giving you more input delay. Now for my keyboard movement, I do use double movement, and these are the settings that I use. I actually copied it off of Khanada, I believe, who is using a 62, 90, and 135. The last time I had checked, he could have changed it, but this has been a great double movement for me. I can hit side jumps, I can tarp, I can do everything I need to do super easily. So I do recommend using this. Now the rest of this stuff literally has no effect on anything. So let's go ahead and jump on over into the bind. Now for the keybinds, I am using keybinds that I think are some of the most optimal binds you can use. I'm using WASD for my movement, which is pretty standard. Jump is spacebar, and my sprint is on caps lock, which is kind of different, but it's honestly super useful. Now my crouch is C, which is also pretty normal, but you guys could also use left control. Now again, these binds are as optimal as I think I can get. I have full movement while I'm editing and doing anything I need to do, and I can also side jump while I'm editing and building and all different times of things, so it kind of works perfectly. Now for use, I use scroll wheel pickup, and my secondary pickup bind is T. I do recommend that scroll wheel pickup helps you get 20 times the 50-50s. You can win so much more with it. And then my pickaxe is on Q. My weapon slots are 1 through 5, so my pump's normally in 1, then it goes like SMG, AR, movement item, and then 2 heals. Pretty standard, but you can kind of customize these as you want. You don't have to use this exact thing that I'm using. Now the toggle weapon canting mode is actually, if you want to unscope your gun, I can hit left control and it'll take me out of it, which I honestly find super useful in endgame situations where I don't want to be super zoomed in. Now for my building binds, I actually use C for crouch again while I'm building, and then my wall is on my mouse. It's my bottom mouse button. My floor is F. Stairs are on my top mouse button, and then my roof is shift. This gives me a lot of motion with my WASD while I'm building. I don't ever find myself stumbling over myself or having any type of messed up movement. My trap is on X, which there isn't really any traps in the game unless you're playing reload or maybe the OG mode. Repair is H, not too important. My rotate build is R. Now I edit with E, which is super nice for me. Some people edit with F. I chose E. It just feels a lot more comfortable for me. And then I do use scroll wheel reset. And to do scroll wheel reset, you want to make sure you bind scroll wheel down or up, whichever you prefer, to the secondary option. And then your reset building, you're going to bind the same thing to your reset building. Everything else here is kind of personal preference. It doesn't matter. Things like the emote, it doesn't matter. It's on L. It's all types of different things. I do recommend scrolling down and using this cursor mode, and then that's just going to be your inventory. It's way faster. And I just have it at tab, so change whatever your inventory bind is to your cursor mode, and you'll find yourself going in and out of your inventory way faster. And that is all for the keybinds. Everything else here, like I said, is kind of just a whole bunch of random binds that aren't really important to anything. Now, if you did find these settings helping you out, let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully it helps you get some wins, maybe even rank up out of Division 2 or Division 3, whichever one you might be in, and it can help you a ton. And I would appreciate if you guys subscribe if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next video, man. Peace.